Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being patient. I know we're starting a few minutes later. We had to quickly get into our Zoom settings and make it so that more than 100 people can join. We had to toggle something on, but we are all good to go now, just starting a couple minutes later than planned. But thank you, everyone, for joining. So what I'd like to do, I'm going to give it about 30 seconds for everybody to go ahead and join who wants to join. But I'm curious where everyone is in the world right now. I like having this icebreaker question because we literally have people from all over the place. 3 days ago, I was in Thailand. I just flew back. Now I'm in Kansas City visiting my brother. This is the guest bedroom back here. Oh, wow. We've got we've got Germany, Ohio, San Diego, Pennsylvania, a lot of Americans here. Ooh, Cozumel. Nice, nice. Rhode Island, all over the place. Cool. Yeah. Whenever I do these live Zoom calls, I always have to try and figure out a good time zone where, we can get Americans, Europeans. Usually I'm in Asia, which means I'm doing the calls really late at night my time. So if you're joining from Asia, kudos to you. I know this is a late night call. All right. Fantastic. So what I'm going to do is move my tea over here and I'm going to start a screen share. So let me get that going. Awesome. So I can see you guys. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen? Fantastic. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. Well, today's whole presentation is exactly this. It is going to be the 3 roadblocks that I see keeping artists from landing consistent licensing deals. So this is also my launch day celebration because my signature course, The Art of Collections, officially opens up for enrollment today. So I created The Art of Collections specifically for artists who want to build a career in licensing. So today's whole training is kind of like, it's like a real world peek into how I teach inside the program. So I'm going to be sharing the exact roadblocks that I see over and over again, and then what actually moves the needle when it comes to landing licensing deals. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So first and foremost, for those who might not know me, my name is Kat Cocolette, and I run a company called Cat Coke. So pretty simply put, I'm an artist. So I license my artwork on products that get sold all over the world, everything from phone cases and wallpaper to bedding and calendars. And I've been doing this full time for over 10 years now. So at this point, my work has been licensed and sold by brands. I mean, you can see them here on the page: Target, Anthropologie, Crayola, Urban Outfitters, Disney, Nordstrom. And at this point in my career, my designs have been printed on over 1 million products that have sold worldwide. Yeah, it has been quite a journey for sure. And I'm also a teacher. So I've taught over 500,000 students, mostly through my classes on Skillshare, which I think is probably how a lot of you guys heard about me, and also through my own programs. So I have seen a lot of artists at every single stage of the journey, what works, what doesn't work, and especially what keeps people stuck. And that's what I want to talk about today. All right. Here's my artist journey. This is why I wanted to do the workshop today. So whether you're just getting started and you're feeling completely overwhelmed with where to even begin, or you've been creating art for years, maybe you've got folders full of artwork at this point, but you feel like you're spinning your wheels and you should have made more progress by now. So that's what I see most often in my students. So what I'll be teaching today, it's not theory. It's literally everything I've learned, again, from 10 years of doing it myself and from teaching thousands of other artists. So here's my photos here. This is my credibility timeline, so I'm a real artist. I've been at it for a while now. Still have not sold this original cat from 1997, so still working on that sale. But you know what? Art licensing is a journey. We'll get there. Here's the thing that I wish someone would have told me when I was first starting out. It is not about making more art. It's about making collections of artwork that are strategically designed for buyers and then actually pitching them, actually getting them in front of the people that can use this artwork. And it sounds simple, but a lot of artists don't know this. But once you understand, it's really these two things, that's when things kind of click into place. Everything starts to change. And that's really what we're going to dig into today. And you know what, by the way, now that we're on this slide, if you hear me saying collection, I'm going to be mentioning collections a lot in this whole Zoom call. this is what a collection looks like. So this is a collection that I designed, and I presented it to a client, and then they turned it into all of these products. So a collection is essentially, it's a body of artwork that feels cohesive. You can package, present it together. Designing in collections, this is the big hack for art licensing. Like, this is the solution, the answer, because this is how you land entire product lines out of your artwork, not just random one-offs. I had a lot of random one-off licensing deals when I was first getting started, and I've since turned into this whole collection strategy because this is what moves the needle. This is what brands are looking for, and this is what I teach inside the Art of Collections. One more thing before we dive in today, please stay until the end of this call because I've been running a mini collection challenge with my email community over the past month. And at the end of today's workshop, I'm going to be announcing the winner of the mini collection challenge. So that winner is going to receive a full ride scholarship to the Art of Collections with immediate access because doors officially open today. So stick around for that, and let's go ahead and dive right into it. All right, so roadblock number 1, I don't know what to focus on. This is, I'm sure a lot of you can relate with this. You've got talent, you've made art. Again, maybe you've just got piles of artwork at this point, but when you sit down to figure out what to actually do to start landing licensing deals, that's when the overwhelm hits. So in preparation, as I was putting together this presentation, in my email announcing this Zoom call, I asked a lot of you guys to respond back and let me know what questions you have, what are some of your pain points, where are you getting stuck? And we're going to dive into a lot of those questions at the end of the call also, but I also kind of worked that into the presentation here. So the stuff I was hearing when I got those emails back from you were, where do I even start? What do I focus on? Should I make more art? Should I start pitching to companies? Do I need to build my Instagram following first? Do I need to get an agent first? Should I go to trade shows? Do I need a polished up website before anything else? What kind of portfolios do art directors even want to see? I got a lot of really, really good questions, and there is so much information out there. And honestly, a lot of it can be conflicting. So this is what tends to happen. You end up researching and researching, but you never actually take action because you're afraid of going down the wrong path. And this is something I hear from artists constantly. It's stuff like, I was struggling just to get focus on what to commit to next, or I'm a complete mess trying to figure things out on my own, just bopping from one idea to another. So if that sounds familiar, again, this is one of the most common things I see. So what do most artists do? We try to figure it out on our own, consuming information, a lot of it, articles, YouTube tutorials, little tips and pieces from everywhere, but there's not necessarily a clear sequence. There's no method to the madness. You're collecting puzzle pieces, but you don't have a clear picture on the box. By the way, I was looking for an image for this slide, and I was like, oh, I'm going to do a little puzzle. And I've licensed several puzzles with clients over the years, but I've never actually finished any of the puzzles. This was the one I was working on last Christmas with my brother in Kansas City, and that's what it's supposed to be. But that's the messy box that we wound up with. So when you're on your own, kind of like trying to fit all these pieces together, figure out what to work on, what that sticking point is you're kind of struggling because there's no one to tell you if you're even on the right track. No one to say like, yes, this is working, or maybe you should try this instead. I've heard students say, I can't afford another fluff course with promises, but no straight and narrow. And I totally get that. That is a very valid and real fear. So let me tell you what this looked like for me. So when I was starting out way back in 2014, I did a lot. I was working constantly, but looking back, only about 10% of what I was actually doing really moved the needle towards my licensing goals. The other 90% of what I was spending my time on was honestly just busy work. So for example, I believed that I needed to look, quote, professional before I had any real traction. So I spent a bunch of time building out like these wholesale sheets before I even had a single wholesale client. It felt productive at the time, like here I am, doing stuff, but it wasn't actually moving my business forward. I had this habit, especially at the beginning, of trying to like preemptively solve problems that didn't actually exist yet. So I'd create systems and materials for these, hypothetical future scenarios like wholesale clients. And because I wasn't basing this off of actual needs, a lot of what I was doing just turned into busy work. And looking back, it would have been way more effective if I would have just waited until there was an actual need and then build the solution, which is exactly what I do now. now. And also there was social media. I had this pressure at the beginning where I felt like I needed to show up everywhere all at once, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Behance, and I was trying to manage all of them. And it really just spread my time and energy way, way, way too thin. I was slowly gaining traction on Instagram. That is the social media platform that ended up working out for me, but it was really slow. And if I had a do-over, I would not stretch myself against, what was that, 5 platforms. I would have just prioritized building real momentum on like 1 or 2. So what I eventually realized in retrospect was only 2 things mattered in the beginning. It's creating strong artwork. That is your product. That's what you're going to be monetizing. And then getting that artwork in front of the right people. Everything else for me at the beginning was just noise. That's how I view it now. So let me just say it plainly. Random learning does not work. More information when you're already drowning in information does not work. Trying to do everything at once definitely doesn't work. What works is something different, and that's having a proven step-by-step roadmap. So I want to emphasize here the word proven, because here's the thing. Again, there's a lot of information out there, a lot of advice, do this and this and this. But how do you know it's actually been tested? How do you know if that advice has helped other artists actually land licensing deals, or if it's just theory? So when you're following unproven advice, you could be wasting your time, or worse, heading down the wrong path and not even know it. So what you need is the right information in the right order from someone who's walked this road and helped thousands of other artists. So when you know what to focus on this week, this month, that's when a lot of that overwhelm starts to disappear. And I've had students tell me things like, you've literally given me the roadmap to launch my surface design career, and the path is so much more clear now. And this is what becomes possible when you stop guessing and you start following something that's actually been proven to work. Roadblock 2, another one that I think a lot of you can relate with. I am spinning my wheels. So you're creating, you're making art, maybe you're making a lot of art, but nothing's really happening. Maybe you haven't even started pitching yet. You just keep thinking, if I have a little bit more work in my portfolio, then I'll finally be ready to pitch, put myself out there. You probably know you should be pitching, but you don't really know where to start with it. Maybe you don't know who to pitch to, email target directly, or do you need to get an agent first? How do you even find the right person to contact? Or maybe you're not sure how to pitch. Like, what do you even say to an art director? Is there a format? Is there a script? And maybe you're not sure what you should be pitching. Like, what kind of portfolio do art directors actually want to see? Do you send everything? Do you curate bits and pieces of it? And if you have tried pitching, maybe you haven't heard any responses, or you got a response back, you weren't sure what to do with it. It just kind of fizzled over time. There's a lot of questions out there. And when you don't have those answers, it's easier to just keep creating and then hoping somehow it'll work out in the end. And this is something I hear from artists all the time. It's stuff like, I was sitting on a body of work, but I didn't know where to go with it. Or my portfolio was like, here you go, it's all my work, but it had no sense or no audience. And this is my personal favorite. I'm wondering if I'm just chasing rainbows and unicorns here. Luckily, in Alexandra's case, she wasn't. So if any of that resonates, just know that you are not alone. Here's what tends to happen. You're just creating more and more art and you're thinking, okay, if I just have enough, then I'll be ready to put myself out there. Maybe you've even sent some pitches, but you haven't heard anything back. Or you got a response, again, weren't sure what to do with it. It just kind of petered out. And then months go by, maybe a year passes. You start strong, life happens, and then you realize you haven't touched your portfolio in months. I've had students say stuff like, the last 8 months, I've just been dilly-dallying on my own. And from Olga here, I should not be in charge of my own timeline at this point. One student told me, I thought if I'm just prolific, that's enough. And then she kind of paused for a second. And then she was like, you know what? It wasn't. So that feeling of spinning your wheels, putting in effort, not getting traction, it's honestly, it's one of the most frustrating places to be. And I'm going to tell you what that looked like for me, because I have absolutely been there. So early on in my career, again, 2013, 2014, I remember thinking like, okay, if I want my art to get in Target, I should just email Target directly, right? Because that's what made sense to me. I was getting on LinkedIn, messaging buyers from all these companies. And spoiler alert, that did not work for me at all, because now I know it's usually a complete waste of time to pitch to Target directly. Now I know the strategy is you pitch to manufacturers who then secure retail placement in stores like Target. So I didn't know that back then, and I was wasting a lot of time emailing these, big consumer brands where my message probably never wound up in the right inbox. And that's because I didn't really know. I mean, I didn't really know. I had no idea how this industry worked when I was first getting started. I was just kind of figuring it out as I went. So this is another thing I kind of went down the wrong path with. When I was trying to pitch to these companies, I had this new idea, this new strategy. I spent all this time creating these like really nice physical packages to send to companies. Here's a picture of one here. It's like product samples, info packets, the whole thing, super polished. I sent so many of these out and I never heard anything back from anyone. I never got a single response. I never even got a thank you. And at the time, it felt really confusing. Honestly, pretty demoralizing because I just kept thinking, what am I doing wrong? I mean, looking back, now I know exactly why. In these whole packets I sent out, I never clearly stated what I wanted. It sounds obvious now, but I didn't know anything about a call to action or what that even meant. I basically gave them nothing to respond to. So the brands that I sent these packages to, they probably opened it, thought, cool art, and then had no idea what I was even asking. So it was costing me time and money, and it wasn't doing anything to propel my business forward. I also did a lot of art shows. And at first, when I first started doing these, I did really enjoy them. It felt like I was putting myself out there, making sales, really building something. But over time, it's like early mornings, parking far away. I'm dragging like 20 boxes of inventory, setting up tents and tables, fighting the wind so nothing blew away. I did all these shows in Kansas and Missouri, and the wind was always like so intense, talking to customers all day while I'm already exhausted. Some of these shows made a profit, some of them barely broke even. And by the end, I was just growing to resent them. It was putting in massive amounts of effort and not really seeing any traction towards my actual goal, which was licensing. It wasn't hauling boxes through a parking lot at 6 a.m. So I kept thinking there has to be a better way. And there was, I just hadn't found it yet. So let me just name it. Let me just name what doesn't work. Creating more art without a strategy does not work. Random one-off pieces, they don't work. That's not what art directors want. Pitching randomly to anyone does not work. Learn from my mistakes. And then also, I want to put this in there too, relying on willpower and motivation, it doesn't work because these things come and go. What works is something else entirely. Here is what I've learned after 10 years in the industry. And I know I've been a broken record about this, but it's so important. And if there's one takeaway from this call today, this is what I want it to be. It's not about making more art. It's about making collections of artwork that are strategically designed for buyers and then pitching them in a smart way. I'm going to say it again because it's so important. It's not about more art. It's about creating the right art packaged in the right way. Art directors, they don't want random beautiful pieces. They want collections. They want cohesive bodies of work that can fit into their product line. And that's the missing link for a lot of artists. You've got the talent, you've got artwork, but it's not packaged in a way that makes it really easy for an art director to say, yes, I can use this. So once you have these strategic collections, the second part is actually putting them out there. Pitching, it's not optional. It's literally the game, but you need to pitch smart, the right companies, the right follow-up. All right. By the way, knowing what to create is half the battle. I got this in the email responses as well. Not sure what you should be focusing on. This is an example here. Inside the Art of Collections, I give students these monthly design briefs based off of real data that I've been gathering, over the past decade. So it's just one here. Yeah, this is February. So this is a snapshot of my February challenge, which is doing a special occasion collection. So I'll tell my students in this brief, they're usually about 5 pages. These are the themes, the trends, the collection types that have the highest probability of getting licensed right now. So these are the things art directors are actively looking for. So my students, they're using these briefs to create collections specifically to pitch, and this is how they're landing licensing deals. So what makes this work is these monthly collection briefs, they're kind of like the framework. So, 10 artists could interpret this exact same special occasion challenge 10 different ways and wind up with 10 totally different collections because they're all interpreting it through the lens of their own artistic voice. So with the briefs, it's essentially not guessing anymore, just executing on a proven strategy. I've had students tell me I'm designing more strategically now and no more spaghetti thrown at the wall. Haley here said, I got an email back from an art director within an hour after submitting. And this is really what becomes possible when you stop spinning your wheels and you start moving with more intention. All right, final roadblock here. This one doesn't get talked about enough. You feel completely alone in this. Art licensing, it's kind of weird because no one in your life really understands it. I still don't think my parents fully get what I do. By the way, mom and dad, I see you guys on the Zoom call, so thanks for joining. Yeah, but no offense, it's a complicated industry. My parents, they might not know every little detail of it, but they do know that when they're out shopping, they'll occasionally see my artwork and send me pictures. So that's pretty fun. But your friends and family, they might be supportive, they want you to succeed, but they might not necessarily get it. You can't exactly ask, friends and family, hey, should I, take a flat fee or should I hold out for royalties? They might look at you like you're speaking another language. And when you tell people what you're trying to do, trying to build this career, licensing your art, trying to build a real business as an artist, sometimes people might look at you like you're silly, like you're being naive, like it's not a real thing. So I felt this a lot at the beginning. It can feel embarrassing to even talk about what you're trying to do. And that leads towards just keeping it to yourself. That means that you've got no one to give you this honest feedback of your work, no one to tell you what's working, what might need to change, no one who recognizes when you're actually leveling up with your style, which is always, a big thing to celebrate when we're having these big moments. No one to ask, is this normal or am I doing this right? That's how I felt a lot at the beginning. And it's something I also hear from artists all the time. It's stuff like, no one in real life understands it, or I had no one to give me honest feedback. I felt like I was on the outside looking in. So if that resonates, I just want you to know you are not imagining it. This industry can be isolating when you're doing it alone. So what happens next? You're figuring things out alone. Maybe you're, Googling questions at midnight, second guessing every decision. That's what I was doing. And then when you do have a big win, maybe you land your first licensing deal or an art director responds to your pitch. You have no one to celebrate with who really understands what it took to get there. And that's a problem because when you're struggling, when you're not hearing back, maybe you're doubting your artwork, you have no one to ask, is this just me or is this normal? One of my students described it recently. She said, it's like walking into a room and not knowing anything. Everybody there already knows what they're doing. And you're like, I'm so overwhelmed, but I want to be part of this group. That feeling of being on the outside looking in, it can be totally exhausting and it makes everything a lot harder than it needs to be. And I felt this so deeply when I was starting out. When I first got into licensing, I was doing it before I knew the term art licensing. I remember telling my friends and family that I'd discovered this brand new income stream that nobody knew existed. That's how disconnected I was. I didn't even have the vocabulary for what I was doing. So at the time, I was living in Kansas City and I was going to these entrepreneur and creative meetups, really hoping to find my people. But everyone I was interacting with at these kind of coffee club meetups, they were all doing freelancing and I wasn't freelancing, I was licensing and I didn't even really know how to explain what I did. I didn't know other artists doing it. I didn't know where to find them. I wasn't even sure if they existed or not. This summer, after I quit my job, there's my selfie from 10 years ago, I joined this business accelerator program and they taught stuff like, balance sheets, cost of goods sold, just business fundamentals. And despite all of that, it was just, every day going in. The most valuable part of the entire summer-long program, it wasn't all of the content that I was learning. It was actually a single conversation I had at the very end. I sat down with the instructor for our one-on-one, and she told me, you're doing everything right. You've got a very strong business. And honestly, it's like that one moment of validation. It was worth more than all of the hours I spent learning in that accelerator, because what I needed wasn't more information. I needed someone to tell me that I was on the right track. So here's my picture here. This is my certificate for completing that accelerator. I was super excited about it, especially because my actual university diploma is still being held hostage over unpaid campus parking tickets. So at least I've got this one, so I can frame this one on the wall. All right. So let's talk about what does not really solve this. Following other artists on Instagram, you might get the highlight reel, but you're not necessarily seeing the messy middle. You don't know what it actually took to get there. Trying to piece together a strategy from random articles, YouTube tutorials, it's isolating work. You still feel alone. You're still guessing. You're still wondering if you're doing it right. And going completely solo, with no one to give you honest feedback, no one to celebrate your wins, no one to ask, is this normal? It can be really exhausting and it makes everything a lot harder than it needs to be. What works is real community. You need people at your level or ahead going through the exact same things you're going through, where you can ask, is this normal? And get an honest answer from someone who's actually been there, where you can, post your work and get real feedback, not just that's pretty, but actual strategic input. And you need access to people who have been there before. So my community, we've got experienced moderators who jump in and help. They started out as students themselves, so they know exactly what you're going through. Plus, on some of our live calls, I'll do live coaching sessions. I take student questions in advance, and then I break them down kind of slide by slide, step by step, giving this actual specific input. And here's what it looks like inside the community. So someone posts their collection. This is Larissa's here. It's beautiful. And then she'll get real feedback. This is strategic input. This is help from people who understand what art directors are actually looking for. It's not just nice to have, it's pretty essential. So, when I would say the first 6 months of building an art licensing business tends to be the hardest, and you really need support through that fragile beginner phase so you don't quit. I've had students tell me I could not be here pitching with this level of confidence without the support of this community. Sherelle here said, I tried to make a portfolio all last year and struggled. The fact that I put this together after just 4 months of being in this community, I could cry. I'm so excited about it. Sherelle actually is now one of our moderators. So she's here. I see her commenting on the chat as well. Yeah, so she started out as a student and is now a moderator in the community. This is what becomes possible when you're not doing it alone anymore. All right, so we've covered 3 big roadblocks that I see stopping artists from landing licensing deals. It's not knowing what to focus on, which is why you need a clear, proven roadmap, spinning your wheels without any real traction, which is why you need structure, accountability, feedback on your work, and feeling completely alone in this, which is why you need a community of people who actually get it. So after going through all this myself, I kept thinking, I wish I had someone who would just tell me what I'm doing wrong. I wish I had someone who would look at my art and tell me if it was good enough to be licensed, or if not, tell me exactly what needs to change. I wish I had somebody who would tell me what to do next. Like, okay, you're done with this step. Now it's time for this step. I wish I knew how the industry actually worked, so I didn't feel like a naive outsider every time I tried to pitch to someone. And then I also heard from thousands of artists I taught over the years that they wanted these same things, but there wasn't anything out there. So I built it. I created a program that gives you everything I wish I had 10 years ago, the roadmap, the accountability, the community, and it's called The Art of Collections. So this is my 6-month mentorship program to help you build your portfolio, land licensing deals, and earn income doing what you love. So it's taught by me. And I want to be clear here. It's not just another course where you watch some videos and then you figure out the rest on your own. This is a 6-month accelerator. It's got curriculum, community, coaching, all built in. And at the end of your 6 months, you should have a client-ready portfolio, a clear plan, and hopefully a few licensing deals under your belts. So let me walk you through exactly what you get inside the Art of Collections. There's 3 main components, and each one is designed to solve one of the roadblocks we talked about today. The first part is the course. So this is 7+ hours of in-depth video training, everything broken down into clear, actionable modules. So you get lifetime access to the course, so you can completely go at your own pace. So here's what's covered inside those videos. Part 1 is design collections that sell. So this is like your 101. It demystifies the entire art licensing industry, so you'll learn how it all works, how we fit in as artists, what strategies actually work. It's kind of like, I guess I pull back the curtain in a way. I show real email screenshots. I show proven themes, examples so that you understand everything. So if you're an absolute beginner, this module gets you completely up to speed. And part 2 is creating a strategic collection from scratch. So if you've never made a collection before, it's not a problem. This module walks you through everything. So you'll feel like you're just literally sitting behind me as I design a full collection. So I'll talk aloud about all of the strategies, considerations, why I'm making each decision I'm making as you follow along and you create your own collection. So by the end of this module, you'll know exactly what it takes to create a cohesive, show-stopping collection that's ready to be pitched. And module 3 is advanced collection techniques. So collections, they don't have to be massive. A collection can honestly, it can be as small as 2 pieces. There's mini collections, which we just did with the mini collection challenge. So this module here, it breaks down all the different collection types and strategies. So minis, product specific collections. This is my wallpaper collection down here. How to repurpose your older artwork into fresh new collections. You don't have to follow the same cookie cutter template every single time. So this module is how you learn how to make collections work for you and your portfolio. All right. And module 4 is pitching, presenting, landing the deal. So this is the meat and potatoes, the business part of the program where you learn how to get your collections in front of the right people and actually land deals. So you'll see real examples of everything, how to pitch your work to the best possible art directors, where it'll get turned into or have the best chances of it landing a licensing deal, what to say if you're getting on a call with a potential client for the first time, and how to navigate contracts, whether to go solo, whether to work with an agent. I go deep into all of it in this module. And I didn't create just another course. I built you an entire resource library. So these are the exact templates, worksheets, tools that I use in my own business. I've created versions specifically for you. So I'm going to walk you through real quick what's included with that. We've got resources to help you actually build and present your collections, like my collection deck templates. I gave some of these away for the mini collection challenge last month. So it was cool to see a lot of you using these to display your mini collections as well. So these are templates where you can literally just drag and drop your artwork in. I show you exactly how to use them in the course videos so you can start building your collections right away. This is how you pretty much present your work in a really professional manner to art directors without having to, figure out the design and layout from scratch. It's just a faster way to get there. I've got some business essentials as well. We've got contract terminology sheets. This breaks down things like royalties, territory, exclusivity, so you're never confused when you're looking at contract language. I've got a discovery call checklist. This is a whopper. It's a 4-pager, and it's everything that I recommend on how you prepare before your first call with a potential client, things to talk about during the call. You don't always have Zoom calls with clients, but when you do, it's really nice to be prepared. And we've also got this self-critique worksheet here. So this breaks down questions that you can ask yourself when you're assessing your own work, and it helps you give better feedback in the community as well. Organization is a huge part of this industry. To succeed in licensing, it is really helpful if you can be organized. So we've created spreadsheets, tables to help you get on track. We've got a pitch tracker, so you know who you've pitched to, when you pitched them, what happened, plus this portfolio and contract template. This helps you stay organized as your portfolio and contracts grow. So I break down exactly how to use both of these. And we've also got swipe files to give you a head start on writing emails. So these are email templates for things like cold pitches, contract negotiations, if you're having discussions about exclusivity, licensing opportunities. So this is basically to help you, instead of just, staring at a blank screen, wondering what to say, you can customize these and send. And finally, we have our 6-month roadmap. So this is the path. So this is an interactive resource we have in the program where you can click through and navigate month by month. So every month has a checklist, so you always know what to work on and when. And the reason this is so helpful for a 6-month roadmap, if you ever fall behind, life gets in the way, you get busy, this helps you pick up right where you left off. I know this roadmap was really helpful for a lot of my students after the holiday break recently. When they came back in after missing the program for a couple of weeks, it helped them know exactly where to pick up. So this is the types of structure. This is what helps you move forward. It's all about progress over perfection. Forward is forward. So that's everything in your toolkit. I really believe in you. I want you to succeed. And that's why I put together these resources. It's to complement everything you're learning in the course videos, to give you the actual tools and systems that I use in my business. So they're not just bonus downloads that you'll never ever look at. They're practical and actual resources that really support you during your journey. So from brainstorming your first collection to pitching it to the right people. So you're not figuring this out from scratch. You've got everything you need to build, to pitch, and to land these deals. So here's how the program flows. Part 1 is the course itself. So that's the foundation. You go through all of the video modules at your own pace. You learn the strategy behind creating collections that sell. And once you've gone through the course, you move on to part 2, which is where the real momentum really kicks in. You join our monthly collection challenges where you're actually creating artwork alongside other students. You can follow the 6-month roadmap, which breaks down week by week exactly what you should be working on and kind of checking off your list. So the course itself is entirely self-paced. So, if life gets busy, you fall behind, no stress, you can pick up exactly where you left off. So that's the course. This solves that roadblock of I'm not sure what to focus on. You get a clear step-by-step roadmap, no more guessing. And here's what some of my past students had to say. Elsa here said, I thought the whole process of creating collections was super complicated. This course took away that belief and showed me how it can be done in a fun and zero complicated way. And Jen said, this is the course that really helps and pushes me to tailor and finalize my portfolio and start pitching. The second component is coaching and accountability. So this is what keeps you moving forward. So you're not just learning, but you're actually doing. So every month you get a collection challenge based off of what art directors are actively looking for, like right now. So I'll give you these data-backed briefs. It's things with like collection types, trends, themes that again have the highest probability of getting licensed. Here's a sneak peek into our June collection challenge, which June, we're thinking about winter holiday, and that's what we're designing for. So yeah, these briefs kind of keep you motivated and moving, knowing what types of collections to design. And with the roadmap, we also have what I call your business steps. We've got 14 of these in total, but here's a little preview. So you always know essentially what you should be working on. So these are one-pagers that I put together to help you tackle milestones and big steps as you grow your business. So it's things like pitch your work, pitch follow-up right here, which by the way, our pitch follow-up business step, that's helped the majority of my students, like the ones that have landed licensing deals, most of them are getting them from this pitch follow-up step. It's really powerful to be following up on your pitches in a strategic way. It's hard to get a yes when it's your first email, but if you follow up in the right way, you can easily turn that into something more lucrative. So we've got other business steps, social media glow up, website glow up, leverage your wins, goal setting, and many more. So it might look overwhelming, but I tuck all of these into the 6-month roadmap. So you're not tackling these all at once. So you're going to get that. Plus you get feedback on your work, but also your pitches, your strategy, who you should be pitching to, all of it. So the way that works is we have a dedicated space in the community. It's called Ask a Question, and you can post any questions you've got. You'll get answers from the community and me when I jump in. And we've also got something fun. This is something new we actually just launched last month. It's called WikiCat, and it's a searchable archive of my most in-depth answers to specific questions. So if you're wondering something, chances are I've already given a super detailed breakdown, and you can reference those anytime here in the WikiCat. We've also got our monthly live calls. That's where I do live coaching. I take your questions and I break them down step by step right there on the live call. So that's the coaching and the accountability. And this is what solves that roadblock of, I feel like I'm spinning my wheels. You've got structure, you've got momentum, and you know exactly what to work on. Here's what some students had to say about this. Abby told me, I sent 3 pitch emails on Monday. That's more than what I've done in the last 6 months. This time, something in my mindset shifted. And Olga said, I've made more progress since this program started than the last 8 months of dilly-dallying on my own. So this is what structure and accountability can really do. All right, the third component is the community, and we call it the Cat Coke Collective. So when you join the Art of Collections, you get 6 months access to the Cat Coke Collective. It's structured support, community accountability, and mentorship. You'll get these monthly live calls, which is where we do Q&A, live coaching sessions, feedback on collections. And as soon as you join, you get access to our entire archive of call recordings. So you can go back and listen to our expert speakers. Everyone you see on this page, we've got their Zoom call recorded in our archive. except Jessie here. She's the one right in the center. She's going to be our guest speaker for our February call, which is happening in about a week. So yeah, I'm really excited for that. Jessie's an incredibly talented artist. She's actually represented by the same agency that represents me, Jewel Branding and Licensing. And the reason I wanted to bring Jessie on, besides the fact that she's a rock star, is she has a lot of abstract artwork in her portfolio. So I want her to come and speak to my community about what it's like licensing with abstract art as well. Up here, top left, we've got Carol White. This is my actual art licensing agent. She joined us a few months ago and she dropped so many value bombs. She was talking about exactly what agencies look for when they're choosing an artist to represent. So again, all of these replays are available as soon as you join, plus access to our future calls. Next week has Jessie. So in the Cat Coke Collective, you're really just surrounded by a buzzing community of artists who are going through the same things you are. It's not a ghost town. People are actually showing up. So that's the community. That solves the roadblock of, I feel completely alone in this. This is how you find people who get it, people who understand what you're trying to do, people to really celebrate your wins. Here's what some of my students said about the community inside. Ursula told me, the active community has really set this apart from other courses. I feel like I can ask a question and get tons of great feedback from multiple community members. And Karen said, this help from the community has been beyond any course I've taken. Feedback, actual meaningful critiques, and everyday support are what make this course so special. So this is what it feels like to not be alone in this anymore. All right, I'm going to show you what's possible when you've got the knowledge, the roadmap, the accountability, the community. I'm going to walk through a few real students that we've had, plus the results that they've secured. So first up is Indira. So she joined the Art of Collections because she was ready to transition away from client work, but she had no idea how quickly things were going to move for her. So within the first 3 months after her joining, she secured her very first licensing deal. And the artwork that got selected, it came from the first 3 collections that she created inside the program following our monthly challenges. 2 months after that, her work was selected again by a major wallpaper company. She got another licensing deal. Then she designed a coloring book for a client. And then just very recently, Nike actually reached out to collaborate. So 5 months in, Indira went from 0 licensing deals to literally working with Nike. She said, I couldn't have done it without everything I learned in this course and the support of this wonderful community. Yeah, big congrats to you, Indira. And we've got Shelly. Shelly is a perfect example of what happens when you stay open to feedback and you really trust the process. So within months of joining, she landed her very first licensing deal with a fabric company. And for Shelly, it wasn't just a one and done. That momentum really started to build for her. So she secured another licensing deal to license 30 pieces of her artwork for online big box retail. So we're talking stores like Target, Wayfair, Michaels, Macy's, Nordstrom Rack. Shelly said, I'm feeling very grateful, very encouraged, and more convinced than ever that this path works when you stay the course. So for Shelly, win-win really compounded. It turned into many, and her art licensing journey is literally just getting started. All right. Next up, we've got Jen. So Jen spent years creating artwork, but she felt stuck and unsure how to actually break into licensing. So inside the program, Jen built her very first pitch-ready portfolio. She gained a lot of confidence through feedback. She was really candid and opened herself up in the community, asking for feedback on her work, and she got a lot of it. And that gave her that momentum. She started pitching consistently. That's what landed to her very first licensing deal, and it was actually with her dream stationery company. Fun fact here, it's actually the same company that I also license with. So Jen and I get to be licensing twinsies here because we're working with the same company. But yeah, what she wrote was, I signed my very first licensing deal. They took 4 designs across 8 different product types. And the really crazy part is a year earlier, Jen had bought a planner from this exact same stationery brand in Hong Kong. And she told herself, one day my art will be here. And she's now designing their 2027 planner for Home Goods. So pretty full circle moment here. Huge congrats to Jen. I was actually on vacation in Hong Kong a few months ago. So I was meeting up with Jen for lunch and we got to celebrate her win in person, which was really cool. So this is the power of consistently pitching and follow through. This is what it can lead to. And we've got Susan here. So Susan, she spent years creating random one-offs, but without a ton of focus, not a ton of clarity. But once she joined the program, she started building these very focused collections. She found confidence to share her work, and she started pitching consistently. Do you guys hear the theme here? It's strategic collections, pitching them to the right people. So thanks to everything she learned, she signed a licensing deal, and now her wall art is selling in Target, Michael's, Bed Bath & Beyond, Wayfair, Amazon, and Walmart. And after that, she landed another deal with a wallpaper company for 3 of her designs in multiple colorways. So what really moved the needle for Susan is she stopped creating, random art. She started creating strategic collections. She got them in front of the right people, and that's what made all the difference for her. And Katrina, she spent years waiting to feel ready. She told me she was basically the poster child for all the things I warn not to do, which is holding yourself back. So she did not pitch at all for years. And after joining, she committed to pitching professionally. She used our pitch deck templates that we have inside the program. And instead of just assuming silence meant rejection, she did the pitch follow-up business step. And that's what led to renewed interest. And that's what got her first licensing contract with a major fabric company. So for Katrina, she stopped waiting for perfection. She started taking action. And that is what made all the difference. And we've got Nat here. So Nat, also common theme. She'd been putting off pitching. She thought she wasn't ready. So inside the program, she finally pushed herself to send that first email. She got a fabulous response. Nat said, I've been putting off pitching, thinking I'm not ready, that I need more stuff, but I pushed myself and I got a great response back. That company, they loved her style. They talked terms. And that's how Nat signed her very first licensing contract. And Maria, she had yoga mats on her dream list for years. After joining the Art of Collections, she said, I recently pitched my art to a luxury yoga mat company, and I received an email from the owner herself. So Maria actually landed a licensing deal in that exact category that she was dreaming after, yoga mats. Then after that, she got 3 paid commissions. She was invited on a guest as a podcast. This is really the power of putting yourself out of your comfort zone, getting your work and yourself out there. I know it can be scary to do, especially if you're not familiar with it, but this is really what moves the needle and gets your licensing career elevated. And we've got Hillary. Her example is it's a perfect example of why follow-ups matter. She had an existing client. It was a wall art company that she'd already been licensing with. I think she told me she had about 25 of her designs licensed with them. And then she pitched them a bunch of new work, and they passed on absolutely everything. A lot of artists would have just walked away at that point, but Hillary didn't. She followed up professionally. She asked for brief feedback so that she could tailor her future submissions to be more applicable to what they were looking for. And because of that email she sent asking for polite feedback, trying to help the client out, they took another look at it. They came back, they told her they'd changed their mind. They licensed 7 of those designs, the same ones that they'd originally passed on. So this is what happens when you use the follow-up framework inside the program. A no does not have to be the end of the conversation. And we talk about this all the time inside. Persistence is what gets you ahead for real. All right, Kristen. Kristen's story is about visibility and saying yes to putting your artwork forward. So she created a ton of really beautiful strategic collections in the program, and then her artwork started getting selected for more high-profile opportunities. She was just published in Visual Arts Journal. She got a featured interview, and then she just recently, I think this was last month, got a 4-page spread in Create Magazine celebrating female artists. And then she got her work selected to be displayed on a billboard in Times Square. So she said, I submitted my collection for consideration and got accepted. So each win that Kristen had here, it built on the last one. And this is really what happens when you put your artwork out there strategically. And Rachel, her story shows that strategic work does not expire. We talk about this in the program, the power of using older artwork, revamping them, publishing them in brand new collections, getting them in front of clients. So she pitched her work to a wall art company, and they selected 2 of her designs for licensing. So big congrats, Rachel. And the kind of fun part here is one of those pieces that they selected, she'd actually drew it. It was one of my free drawing challenges, my Create with Cat Coke challenges I do in my email list. She drew it like a year or two earlier. So she wrote, I'm feeling super prepared now to use words like exclusive and territories and royalties. When you build intentionally and you really understand the business side of things, that's how past artwork can turn into these present day opportunities. And we've got Shaniqua. So her win is a really good example of how consistent portfolio building can absolutely pay off. So she licensed 3 illustrations to be used on paint sets. And this happened while she was still building collections. She was doing a bunch of reworking older artwork and really refining her portfolio. So she was pitching while she was actively building at the same time. So every licensed product, it just helps you build credibility and confidence for the next opportunity. So these are all real artists inside our community, real results. This is what's possible. When you add it all up, the course, the roadmap, 6 months of community access, you've got the live calls, the guest speakers, the monthly challenges, feedback on your work, pitches, strategy. I mean, honestly, I think the value of this course is at least $4,000 or $5,000. I think it would be worth every penny, but I wanted to make it more accessible to artists who are just getting started. So this is the investment. It is a one-time payment of $1,997, one time, or we also have a 6-month payment plan available, $367 a month for 6 months. And here's my promise. This is my money back guarantee. Once you join, you've got 14 days. Either you're going to completely love it, you'll feel like you're in the right path to landing your consistent licensing deals, or you get your money back, no questions asked. All right. Enrollment closes next week, so Tuesday, February 10th. And once doors close, my full attention goes to the artists inside the program. So the artists who see the best results are the ones who commit to diving in rather than waiting for, like the perfect time. So this round of the Art of Collections, it kicks off in February, which means you could have multiple collections built. You could actively be pitching by spring or summer. So this is your opportunity, and I really, really hope to see you inside. So my team is dropping the link in the chat right now. Click that, and that's how you secure your spot. Okay, I do want to take some time, answer questions. I know we're getting towards the end of the call, so if you need to hop off, that's totally fine. I'll be posting the replay after this, but I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to answer some questions. So if you want to stick on, stick around and I'll keep going. So I'm going to start with the most common questions I got from the email responses, and then we're going to dive into chat questions as well. So if you've got questions, drop them in the chat. Amy is collecting them, and I'll get to as many as I can at the end. But first, I wanted to address some of the questions that you guys emailed me. And I basically sorted them by the ones that were the most common that I was getting. This one was huge. Am I ready? I haven't found my style yet. So honestly, this course is what helps you build your portfolio. You don't need a finished portfolio to get started. So a lot of students come in, they might be feeling like they're not ready. That's exactly why they need the structure. You'll develop your style as you go through the process of creating collections. And then honestly, it'll likely refine over time as you become a more confident illustrator. So if you don't feel like you're ready now, that's what you'll be building in the program. This one I got a lot too from the emails you sent me. I've never created a collection before. Am I too much of a beginner for this? My answer is absolutely not. A lot of our students come in never having made a collection at all before this. Inside the program, we walk you through exactly how to build, these strong, intentional, cohesive, strategic collections, and then how to think about them in a really marketable way. So thinking about your art as a business rather than just a hobby. So a lot of students, they create their very first collection in the program following these monthly briefs. So if you've never created a collection, you're not behind. You're in the exactly right place to start. And another one, what if my work isn't good enough yet for licensing? This fear is usually driven by imposter syndrome, not necessarily reality. The truth of it is the fastest way to grow is just to start. So by creating work intentionally, putting a stake in the ground, you give yourself something real to build from. Progress, it comes from doing. It's not waiting until everything feels perfect. And honestly, being surrounded by other motivated artists who are also actively working towards the same goals, that changes how you see your own art. Growth, it really accelerates when you're not doing it alone. And I'm going to hammer this in one more time. I can't stress it enough. If you're taking action, you are already ahead of everyone who isn't. Pitching, it feels really scary. I got a lot of emails about that too. We're going to come to that after this. But, that fear of pitching, it stops so many people from ever doing it. So if you're, putting yourself out there, you're actually out there pitching, you're going to create opportunities that will never happen to people who stay on the sidelines. So again, putting yourself out there, actively working towards it and doing it, that's how you start building real traction and real progress. Is this only for US artists? Nope. We've got artists and students from all over the world, UK, Australia, Shenzhen and Hong Kong, Brazil. The strategies we teach apply everywhere. A very common one as well. I get this. I relate to this. I've bought too many courses already. I do get that, but this is not another course that's just going to collect dust. The difference here is the community and the monthly challenges. They keep you accountable. You're not just watching videos and hoping, you follow through. You're going to have the structure. You'll have people to check in with. This is the power of accountability. And another common one, what happens if I fall behind or I can't keep up? So this whole program is built around the 6-month roadmap. So you always know where you're at, what to focus on next. So if you miss a week or a month, you're not off track. You just pick up where you left off. So everyone in the program, they're all working on their own timeline. Some of our artists are balancing this alongside full-time jobs and family life. Others have more time that they can dedicate towards it. Both are totally valid. What matters is this consistency. It's making these intentional steps forward. It's not necessarily about speed. And what if I don't have time? So I'm going to paint a picture for you. It's 6 p.m. You've just finished dinner. I eat dinner really early. You've finished your 9-to-5 job. You're ready to sit down, maybe work on your art business. What do you think is going to be more effective? Is it going to be following a proven roadmap where you know exactly what to do? Or is it trying to figure out everything on your own? Maybe wasting a bunch of mental energy just trying to figure out what you should be doing in the first place. This course is self-paced. It's got lifetime access to the course videos. So there truly is no falling behind. And if you need more time with the community after your 6 months, we do have options for you to renew on an affordable monthly rate. So you can really do this on your own timeline. This structure that we provide, it saves time. You stop spinning your wheels and you just follow the roadmap. All right, so I see some good questions coming in the chat. Keep those coming. Amy is gathering those up for me, and I'm going to come back to that at the end. But yeah, I know we're running a little bit over right now. I want to make sure we have time for our next big announcement, which is our scholarship winner. So before we wrap up, I want to take a moment, talk about something special. Back in January, I ran a mini collection challenge. It's a free email challenge where artists can submit their work. It's been really fun to see all of the artwork you've been submitting as you guys participate. And I promised that one winner of that challenge is going to receive a full ride scholarship to the Art of Collections. And drum roll, please. The winner is Ani. Ani, congratulations. I have loved seeing, your collection coming out week by week. Really, really beautiful stuff. You have won a free full ride scholarship to the Art of Collections. So I am going to send you an email or maybe a DM on Instagram. We'll see right after this call, and I'll get you access so you can join the community today and get right in there. So big congrats to Ani. Oh, I see you on the call. Hey, Ani. Yeah, can't wait to meet you inside the program. And hey, thanks for following along with the mini collection challenge. And thank you for everyone who participated in this as well. Ani, you won't be alone. Over the years, we give out full ride scholarships to artists of all levels. 6 of these scholarship winners are joining inside the program today, alongside you, Ani, our challenge winner, and everyone who has already joined. So big welcome to all of you guys. I can't wait to see what you create in the program. All right. So here's where we are. You've got a choice to make. There are 2 paths you can take. You can close this webinar, go back to what you were doing before. Maybe you're still not sure what you want to focus on. You're still not sure what kind of art you should even be creating. Still not sure how to actually get your art in front of art directors. Maybe you're still feeling like you're spinning your wheels on the outside looking in. I'm not saying this to be harsh. I'm speaking from experience. I have been there and I know exactly what it feels like. Or you've got path B. You join the Art of Collections today. You start building real collections. It's strategic work that art directors actually want to see. You start pitching them to companies the right way with the best chance of actually getting heard back from. This is how you start to feel like you've got real momentum going. You feel more confident in your strategy, your artwork. You feel like you're on the right path. you're part of a community of artists who get it, you've got people in your corner, and you finally feel like an insider, not someone on the outside looking in, this roadmap exists. You do not have to figure it out alone. Enrollment closes Tuesday, February 10th, and we officially kick off the program the following day on Wednesday, the 11th. That's when we have our first live call. So we've had students, they started joining yesterday, so they're already coming into the program. It officially starts on February 11th. And if you can't attend the live call, no worries. All of our live calls are recorded and we post the replays in the community. Oh yeah, don't forget, we do have that 14-day money back guarantee, so you are protected. Either you're gonna love it or you get your money back, no questions asked. So yeah, can't wait to see you guys inside the Catcoat Collective. And thank you so much for being here. All right, we are going to get to some Q&A time. So what I'm gonna do is stop my screen share and come back to the main room. Okay, I'm back. Can everyone see me? Thumbs up. Yes. Okay, fantastic. Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you for sticking on for the end of the call. Again, I know we're a few minutes over, so if you need to leave, that's fine. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and answer some questions. So let me pull up where Amy has been dropping some of the questions from the chat, and I'll just see how many we can get through. All right, so I'll start with this one from Mary Jane. She said, my licensing deals have come from people seeing my work on Instagram. However, I've read and learned that to get the big ones, you need to send info to so many companies and you get mostly rejections. So how do you keep going despite that? So yeah, a lot to unpack here. I would say, well, first of all, Mary Jane, huge congratulations for getting licensing deals through Instagram. That proves your work is already marketable. So that's a really, really good signal. Big licensing deals, they usually require active pitching, not just being discovered. And when you're pitching, it comes with a pretty high rejection rate. It's totally normal. It's not a sign that you're doing anything wrong. And, I touched on this in the presentation, but rejection is why a lot of artists stop. So if you keep going despite the rejection, you're going to be ahead of most people. Tough skin. It's not something you were born with. It's built through repetition. That first pitch you send, and I tell this to my students all the time, the first one is going to be the hardest, but after that, it gets a lot easier, a lot more strategic. The rejections that you're going to get, they don't cancel out your progress. So like me, for at this point in my career and literally every year of my career, I have always gotten more no's than I've gotten yeses. And that's never going to change. I will always get more rejections than I'll get acceptances, but that's just how the industry works. It's totally fine because it's not the rejections that propel me forward. It's those deals that work out. It's the yeses that move the needle forward. So one win can outweigh, dozens of rejections. So yeah, I guess Mary Jane, to boil it all down, I think it would just come down to this. Consistency matters more than confidence. You don't need to feel brave. You just need to keep showing up. And that's going to be, I think that's going to be like the missing piece of the puzzle for you. Okay, hope that was helpful. I'm going to go to Connie for the next one. And let's see. She wrote, I'm doing too much and I know it, but I don't know where to focus my energy. How do you pick a direction? These products have very different subject matters and style, and I don't know how to narrow it down. So, I touched on this in the presentation, but I'll repeat it here. At the beginning of your career in licensing, two things matter the most. It's creating collections, that's your product, and getting them in front of the right people. So that is what I would spend the most time and energy working towards, because that's how you build up your licensing career. This is also why I encourage my students not to wait too long before they start pitching. So you don't need a huge body of artwork to start pitching. Honestly, just a few solid collections is usually enough to start. So pitching, it's really what helps you learn quickly what works and what doesn't work. You're going to get real world feedback from the actual industry that you're pitching to. Plus, you're going to be researching brands you want to pitch to. So, let me put it this way. If you spend your full 6 months in the program just building collections without showing them to anyone, you could be heading down the wrong direction and not even know it. Building collections and then pitching them at the same time, that's how you get aligned with the market, figure out what's working, what's not working. You can adapt and grow from there. And, honestly, pitching, it's a great way to just rip off the Band-Aid. The longer you wait for it, the scarier it becomes. But these rejections, and again, I tell this to my students all the time, they're very normal and it teaches you so much more. You'll stop trying to over perfect in isolation. You'll kind of get to the point where you realize this is just, this is just part of the progress. So when you think about what types of products you want your artwork to actually wind up on, that'll also help you design collections with a lot more clarity. When you're sitting down to think, what do I want to paint or draw? Thinking about that end product in mind is going to help you have a lot more clarity to designing your collections in the first place. So, hope that helps. All right, I've got another one from Victoria. And she said, how do I find the correct person or place to send my portfolio? And what happens if a company wants to license my work? What happens next? She said, I've just designed my online portfolio and I'm not sure of the next steps. So yeah, this is a really common question. It's that, what now kind of moment. So there's a lot of strategies for finding the right person to pitch to. We cover these inside the program, but the most effective starting point is thinking about what products you want your art on and then where you want those products sold. And you can kind of work backwards from there. So what that would look like in practice. And by the way, this is how you start thinking of yourself as more of a commercial artist and less as, a hobbyist, which is where a lot of us actually started. So how this works in actual practice would be going into a store, physically looking at the product category you're interested in. Maybe it's, I don't know, planner covers at Target. So I'd go to Target, find the stationery aisle, find the planners, flip over those products. And some of them are going to be designed in-house by Target, but a lot of them are going to be manufacturers that have secured retail placement in Target. So that company, whoever that brand is on the back of the planner cover, that's who you want to be pitching to. That's the manufacturer. You don't want to pitch to the retailer. You certainly could, but it's a lot harder to hear back. You have much better chances if you pitch to the company that makes that product. So it's pretty simple. That's kind of how you go about doing it. And so once you start pitching, that's when these outcomes kind of fall into a few categories. You're either going to get no response back, which is really common. You might get a polite no, or just not right now. Sometimes you'll get a request to see more artwork, or you get an interest in licensing one of your designs. So if a company responds and they're interested, they'll probably have some typical follow-up questions. They might want to request files so that they can see if they're high res enough to work on their products. They might want to dive right into the licensing conversation to be discussing royalty rates, terms of the contract, that kind of thing. So that's where, the territory, terms, royalties, products usage, that's when you have those conversations. So if I'm saying this and it's sounding like terrifying to you right now, Victoria, you don't need to know this information right this second. You will learn this inside the program as well. And we've got templates and kind of a breakdown of what to expect and how to best negotiate and actually know your worth. All right. Next one. Let's see. I'll do this question from Cynthia. So she said, I'm not sure where I should be spending the majority of my time. Illustrations, patterns, or print on demand? And how many patterns do I need before I can confidently make a pitch? I'd like to focus on both pattern design and print on demand. In your experience, is one more lucrative than the other? Yeah, Cynthia, I've got lots of opinions on this one. So it's a really common question, especially earlier on. Full transparency here. I had a lot of success with print on demand in the early days, about 12 years ago, but now I consider print on demand, it's a pretty different beast than it was back then. And I've actually shifted. I don't put too much of my energy in print on demand anymore. It's just not a huge priority at this stage of my business. Maybe I'll do some uploads like maybe once or twice a year is kind of what it's come down to at this point. But my focus right now is licensing. It's where I've seen more opportunities. It's been more lucrative for me than print on demand. And to answer the other part of your question, like when do you start pitching? You can pitch with a single collection. I usually recommend starting with at least 3, but the most important thing, it's not about the volume of artwork. It's how relevant is the artwork you're sending to the company you're pitching it to. So, again, they don't need to be huge, but they really need to be relevant to that manufacturer, what types, and you can do the research too, like look at their website, find other products that they sell. You'll get a good idea of the types of designs they usually like to license, who their audience is. Is it, millennial women? Is it, nursery decor for babies? There's different audiences for a lot of different manufacturers and clients. So, kind of doing that doing that research, figuring out where you want your artwork to live, and then building collections and then getting them pitched to those people that are going to see that artwork and be like, yes, that is going to be perfect on our product type. Michelle, so she said, I design in Procreate, not Adobe. I'm worried if I get a licensing deal, I won't be able to provide the right formats. Yeah, Michelle, this is a good question. We address this in the course videos because it's just one of the most common questions I get from students on the technical side of things. So I've got a full detailed answer, but I'm going to give you the highlight reel of that now. You can absolutely succeed in licensing even if you design only in Procreate and you don't use Photoshop or Adobe Illustrator or anything else. What matters isn't the program or even the artistic medium that you designed in. What matters is the final file output. It needs to be high resolution. For my analog artwork, like anything that I hand paint or hand draw, I scan it into my computer at a high resolution, and I just make sure that those files, I usually work on like a 40 by 40 inch square if it's going to be a square orientation at 300 DPI, maybe like 31 by 42 inches if it's going to be a portrait, switch that up if it's going to be a horizontal. But I found that working in those really large dimensions make my artwork applicable for just about every product that exists out there. Working on those larger dimensions, I haven't run into a single client that wasn't able to use my work. When I send final files to clients, what I always send them is layered files. It's really important. Art directors want layered files because they're usually going to be kind of like pulling them apart a little bit to make it fit on a specific product. So what you can do in Procreate, Michelle, is you can actually export from Procreate as a layered Photoshop file or a layered Procreate file, so you can send that to your clients as well. I create artwork in, so many different mediums. I use Procreate, Photoshop, I use Adobe Illustrator, I do hand-painted watercolor, gouache, acrylic. I did a bunch of India ink at the very beginning. Those designs still get licensed. So it's not about how you create your artwork, the exact medium or the program. It's having professional, final, ready, high quality files that you can send to an art director and they'll know exactly what to do with it. So that would be my tip for you there. Let's see. Teresa says, who decides what is strong artwork? Isn't it very subjective? Yeah, Teresa, you're absolutely right here. So when I say strong artwork, I'm coming at this with the lens of being a commercial artist. Like I earn a living earning royalties from my artwork that sells. So, I have personal art that I'll draw. Like there's a little snail mushroom design that's in my niece and nephew's room over here. I'm staying at my brother's house. I'm visiting Kansas City for the week. And that one I didn't put in my licensing portfolio. I drew it just for me to give to my niece and nephew. But when I'm creating art for my licensing portfolio, I'm looking at it through this kind of like laser focused commercial lens. Like I want to be creating artwork that's going to fly off the shelves, earn me a bunch of royalties, convince my manufacturer, my licensing partner to continue licensing with me because it's so lucrative. So when I'm talking about strong artwork, I mean artwork that's going to have the highest potential for selling well. And a lot of that depends on the audience. There's different audiences for who buys, where it's going to be sold through. There's so many different product types out there. I think of like for my own licensing career, it's hard to think of a product type that I haven't had my artwork on at this point. It's literally been like everything. So yeah, when I talk about strong artwork, is it going to be successful in art licensing, essentially? Another question. Oh, Amber wants to know what happens after 6 months. So let me give you some clarity here. So the Art of Collections, it's two things. It's the course videos, which you have lifetime access to. You could go back, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if you want to rewatch those. Those will never go away. So that's the course videos. And then we have the community, which is the Cat Coke Collective. The community is the part that it's only 6 months access to. That's the part of the program where we have the live calls, the active forum, getting that peer feedback, all of that. And when I first launched the program, like a year and a half ago, I was like, okay, after 6 months, like this sayonara, like that's when you graduate, you leave the program. But we actually had a lot of our students asked if they could still continue on, stay on past the 6 months. They get a lot out of the community. So we actually put together an option now where you can renew at a monthly rate or at a discounted annual rate if you want to. You're not repurchasing the entire course all over again. It just comes down to a month-by-month membership rate if you want to stay in after your 6 months are over. All right, let's see. Sarah wants to know, how many collections do you need to start pitching? Sarah, you can pitch with one single collection, but again, rule of thumb is I would say at least 2 to 3, and just make sure that those collections that you're pitching, they're going specifically to someone who's going to be able to, it's going to be most relevant for who you're pitching to. So like, I'm not going to be sending a bunch of like birthday card designs to a wallpaper company, for example. That has no relevance for them. What are they going to do with it? So if I'm going to be pitching to a wallpaper company, I want to send them at least one really, really strong wallpaper collection, because that's showing, that's also just being considerate, you know, because art directors were people too. I used to be an art director. And so that's just being considerate, showing like, I'm not going to send you, 5,000 images. I'm just going to show you my polished, curated set that I think would be the best for your products. So that would be my advice there. But in some of the examples I gave earlier, like Indira, she pitched to her first client 3 collections, and that's how she landed her first licensing deal. So it's about quality over quantity, strategic art collections over just insane quantity. That's how you succeed in this. All right, let's see. Phil says, I'm a watercolor artist and not a designer or illustrator. So could I ever license my art? Well, I started licensing only with my watercolor artwork at first. So that's how I built up my career. I didn't start using Procreate until 2020, actually. So I'd already been licensing for about 6 years before I started using Procreate. Whatever medium you use, like whatever art, like type of artist you are, maybe you have a certain medium or certain styles or one style or multiple strong ones. It's more about finding that company, that brand that's going to be able to take your art and run with it and put it on their products and get sales. So I wouldn't self-select yourself out of anything just because you use one medium or another. I see watercolor artists getting a lot of success with licensing. Oh, you know what? Here's a tip. I think I'm going to end with this because we're almost a half hour early, but I think I'm going to end on my strongest tip. So if you're wondering, like, is my art good enough to get licensed? Like, is there even going to be potential for me? I don't know. Maybe go shopping, go to Target or go to like Urban Outfitters or a store that you would like to have your artwork sold in. Walk around and see, really pay attention to the art that's printed on products and think, do I have any art that would work for products like this? Could I envision my art in a store like this? Another big tip I have is, if you want to see other artists that are like crushing it with licensing and being really successful, go find artist agency's website. Like my artist agency is called Jewel Branding and Licensing, JBL. And what you can do, you can go to these art agency websites, go to their portfolio of artists. Like on Jewel's website, it's all of the artists that they represent. We've each got a brand book and a dedicated profile page. So you can go to Jewel's website. That's going to give you a snapshot of the artists that they represent. So these are artists that are successful in licensing. You can click through those brand books. That'll kind of give you a good glimpse of seeing like what types of artwork, this artist does mostly watercolor. Where are they getting the most success? Where are they selling their work? Who's licensing it? Or this artist does only seamless patterns. Where is she finding the most success? Clicking through those lookbooks and getting a look. But there's artists of all different styles, all different audiences that can really, really succeed in licensing. So, all right, I'm not going to take too much of your time. I already went way over. Sorry, guys. So I'm going to wrap this up here. Yeah, thank you so much for just joining and being here. And I am one more time popping that link to join in the chat. So you can go ahead, click that. If you decide to join, I can't wait to see you inside the Catco Collective. And thank you again so much for joining this call. All right, take care. And I will see you guys maybe next Friday for our monthly live call with Jesse. All right, take care, guys. Adios.